Gotta save the king. So a funny thing happened on the way to us making our grand return to the world of YouTube and your podcasting platforms. Last week, the three of us, myself, Brian, and KD, recorded a show, and to say that the show sucked is being kind to the word sucked. So we're doing you a favor, and that show has met an untimely demise in the recycle bin of my computer. You're welcome.
Unless you want to join the Patreon, that is definitely up and running, and then you can see it then.
I wish we had a Patreon. We got to have more followers to have a Patreon, dude.
Yeah.
We still, we're still hovering around 50.
Insider content.
I know. Welcome to Wrestling with Egos. My name is Patrick, and I am joined, like I said, by the aforementioned smartest guy in the room, Brian, and the funniest guy in the room, KD. I am, of course, the loudest guy in the room. And tonight we're gonna have a little fun. We have done over the
time.
I know, right?
No more therapy for Patrick.
No more therapy for Patrick. Thank God. Thank y'all. Just be glad you're not seeing last week's episode, because sweet cream on an ice cream sandwich.
I feel like I need some therapy now from your therapy session. So
yes. So in the 4 years of this show, every once in a while we break off into something that we call the GOAT discussions. We take a wrestler, and there's obviously Brian's holding, for those of you on YouTube's, our mascot goatee.
goatee, okay.
Yes. So what we do in a GOAT discussion is we discuss a wrestler's career and whether or not they truly deserve GOAT status, being considered one of the greatest of all time. Well, we're not doing that tonight. Why? Because the name that I'm about to mention does not need to be discussed as one of the greatest of all time.
There is no debate.
No, there is one debate, and that debate is whether or not he is the greatest of all time. And then some people, like myself, will still say, no, there's no debate. We are going to be talking about the incomparable career of Shawn Michaels tonight. And this is still, I'm sorry, but that theme song still holds up.
Right. Yeah.
But we're going to be talking about not necessarily his career, and using the criteria that we've always used for the GOAT discussion: championships and the intangibles and career longevity, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. We're not doing that. What we are going to do is we are going to talk about what made Shawn. Not looking at his career, but looking at what we think solidified him as like one of the gods of Olympus of professional wrestling. There's nobody in this world that can say Shawn isn't one of those. And if they are, they have no idea what the hell they're talking about. Let's just be honest. So I want to open it up to you guys with this. What is, if you're introducing someone that has never seen professional wrestling, and you're introducing them to Shawn Michaels, what is the match that you start with to be able to say, dear friend, this is HBK?
It's a good question.
Man,
very good question.
Phrase it like that. Because phrasing it like that is a bit different than saying, here's a signature match that made him.
Right. Oh, we're going to get to the signature matches. But there's a reason I wanted to go with this one, because this, in my thought process, is this question eliminates some of the obvious matches from that signature match category.
Okay, I'm still gonna hold firm because I don't necessarily go with the obvious answer on this show. We
No,
should
you
all
did
know
not.
this by now. So I'm going to take you back to the year 1996. And I'm going to take you back to the pay-per-view known as In Your House Mind Games.
See, I probably don't remember this because I was 5.
Well, that's fair. KD, make some time this weekend to cue this up.
Oh, this is a
Because he wrestles
great
Mankind
match.
during this match. Or he wrestles Mankind for this match. And the reason I would start with this one is you watch Shawn Michaels' moveset and you think, okay, he's only good with a certain kind of dance partner. And that's not the case. Because we all know what kind of a performer Mick Foley was for all of his career and what kind of a performer he had to be for all his career, because he didn't have what Shawn Michaels had. He didn't have what people like Ricky Steamboat had and all these other like athletic type wrestlers.
Yeah.
And this was the first time, one of the first times, because he wrestled some other big guys too, where Shawn Michaels had to change his style up and, go to war with somebody really in a match. To the point where Mick was so appreciative of what Shawn did for him that in his first biography, he spends a lot of time lauding Shawn for it. There's a whole chapter plus, as I recall, on what this match meant for Mick's career and what ultimately meant for Shawn's career, because I believe this match raised Shawn Michaels' stock in the eyes of Vince and the writers, like, okay, we can trust him with insert name of performer here.
Right. Yeah. Shawn was already WWE champion at that point.
Yes.
Oh.
But this was the moment where it was like, okay, we don't just have, the best wrestler on the planet right now as a champion. Now we're looking at Shawn as a generational talent.
Because, and I'll add one more thing really quick, and then, KD, Patrick, by all means, jump in there. We've talked a lot on this show about there's more to what makes a great match than just the moves.
Right.
There's psychology, there's storytelling, there's anticipation, there's all of those things, the intangibles that we mentioned a time or two. I dare say that every match we're going to mention, with maybe a few exceptions, is going to deliver on all those nuanced areas. And that's why we make it a must-see match for Shawn Michaels.
Yeah, I completely agree. I think, and I'd forgotten about this one. I'm glad you brought this one up. But yeah, this is definitely one of those matches where you can look at this match and go, this embodies Shawn Michaels.
It's legitimately the first match I thought of when you posed the question this morning. Here's what I want to focus on tonight. Mankind was the first one that popped into my head.
So I have two, and the reason I have both of these is because one, it's the same wrestler. Two, it's almost impossible to decide, which one of these matches I would present to someone that's new to wrestling.
Just so you know, though, for Brian's one, I just had a look. The star rating was 3 out of 4 stars at the time for that. So they only had a max of 4 from the look of it. And he got a 3 out of 4. So
makes sense. I mean, it's a very highly rated match, no matter whose system you follow. There's very few people hate the match. We'll put it that way.
It's a phenomenal match, and KD, I would definitely recommend watching that one. It's you'll have a good time watching that one.
I love both of them.
Damn sure.
I love both of them.
That's for damn sure. So mine, 2 parts. Like I said, same opponent. Shocker here. The opponent is The Undertaker.
Okay. That might be the same as mine.
The first match I go to say this is Shawn Michaels is WrestleMania 25. I'd say that because I say, and this is a hill that I will die on until my answer changes. It is in my opinion, the greatest wrestling match ever. It is the one match that I would introduce. I would use this match to introduce someone to Shawn. I would use this match to introduce someone to The Undertaker. I would use this match to introduce someone to professional wrestling. to me, this is like one of the end-all be-alls. Because you can look at that match and there are no flaws in that match. From the entrance to the beginning, to the psychology, to the false finishes, to the finish, and the build. Perfect in every way. The other one that's a Shawn Michaels Undertaker match that I would show to someone to introduce them to Shawn is the very first Hell in the Cell.
Ah, you took my answer. That was my answer.
Sorry, buddy. Sorry, buddy. So you know what? I may have taken your answer, but I'm not going to steal your thunder. Why?
Okay.
You go.
Well, just so you know as well, for that one before, that was WrestleMania 25 was 3 out of 4 stars as well. Don't know if that means anything for you guys. But I would say Hell in the Cell, because when I think of Shawn, I think of Trailblazer. That's like the main thing that comes to my mind. It was like the first smaller guy that Vince really got behind. First ladder match, first Iron Man match, as you just said. I don't know if it was the first one in WWE, but it's the one that everyone remembers then. Hell in the Cell. Yeah, that's probably the main ones that I can think of, actually. When the first winner of the Elimination Chamber as well, if I believe correctly.
He was. He won the title. He won the title of the very first Elimination Chamber in Madison Square Garden, and damn the pop when Earl Hebner counts 3 on that one. Damn.
Yeah, I mean, for all those reasons and more, I think, like, especially as well when you look at Undertaker as an opponent for Shawn Michaels, it's really cool. It's very much like polar opposites when I look at them. And it's also interesting as well, considering the polar opposites. Yes, the one that makes more sense as the bad guy is usually the good guy in their matches. Shawn is usually the bad guy, I think.
Yeah,
but not always. That's probably half and half.
Even when even at WrestleMania 25, when both of them were insufferable good guys, white meat baby face as long as the day is long, because Shawn has come back and nobody's gonna boo Shawn, and Taker's Taker. Nobody's gonna boo Taker. Shawn was still the heel in that match. I mean, because he did the underhanded shit and cost Taker the title at Elimination Chamber the month before. I mean, perfect. But those would be the 2 matches that I would say here. This is Shawn Michaels.
What year was it, that one for Hell in a Cell? I'm forgetting.
97.
Yeah.
97.
No, 98. Sorry.
98.
That was at King of the Ring 98 in Pittsburgh.
No, it wasn't.
No, that was him and Foley.
That was that was
98. The previous 97. It was in your house.
When was WrestleMania 13? When was WrestleMania 14? When Shawn lost to Austin?
Oh, I'll find it. It
was 98. That was 98 because Shawn wasn't around in 99.
Yeah, it was October 97, the Bad Blood one. I just found it.
Yes.
All right.
Number 1 contender.
The reason I say that, because that's the debut of Kane.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Right, and that begins the program with Taker, leading to WrestleMania 14, when Taker faced Kane on that same WrestleMania card.
And honestly, one of my favorite things about the Hell in a Cell match is the commentary.
Yeah.
God.
Yeah. Everything about it.
JR and King, and we've talked on the show before about Jerry the King Lawler. I mean, doesn't have very many good lines, but one line of his I always remember is, JR says something that Shawn Michaels needs to get on a bike and ride in this match. And Jerry the King Lawler was like, to where? Where's he going to go? It's like I've always said, why does a funeral go through red lights? What's the hurry? And I'm like, that's a great way to sum it up. Like, you might as well just stand there and fight.
He had that line.
Yes. And I've always loved that line. I'm like, why does a funeral go through red lights? What's the hurry? Why is Shawn Michaels running around here? There's nowhere to run. And that's the whole point.
Jerry Lawler is another one we could do a conversation like this about because there's so much to him, especially when you look at the, all the Andy Kaufman stuff and all that. Everything he did to bring eyes onto wrestling.
Okay, so let me say this: I both love and hate Jerry Lawler.
Yeah.
I hate him as a commentator. I think he is absolutely dreadful as a color commentator. As a wrestler, damn.
Mm.
Now, keep in mind, me growing up in the southeastern part of the U.S., I know who Jerry Lawler is. I remember not too long ago having a discussion because Andy Kaufman earlier this year was inducted into the Hall of Fame.
Yeah,
I remember having a discussion with my mom about the Jerry Lawler Andy Kaufman deal. Mom wasn't the biggest wrestling fan before I was born. She kind of got into it by proxy with me.
Yeah.
But I remember asking her about that, and I'm sitting there for 30 minutes just listening to her talk about, yeah, on Letterman it was this, and then this was the talk afterwards, and this was a big thing. And I'm like, holy crap.
He was very good at it, it is.
Not just that, but Lawler's matches with Kurt Hennig, Lawler's matches with Kerry Von Erich. I mean, Lawler, when he wrestled pre-WWE, Lawler was a beast.
He was bigger than Hogan, arguably, at some point in his career, and so in the right places, definitely.
Oh yeah, yeah. No, in Memphis, he might have been bigger than Jesus.
But bringing it back to what we were talking about, it's rare, and that's why I brought it up, because it's rare that Jerry Lawler lends something like analysis-wise to a match that isn't an off-color joke.
Oh yeah,
or
and he, despite being as decorated of a wrestler as he is, he never did that. So great point on that one.
Bringing it back to the match, though, just so you know, that was 5 stars in the Wrestling Observer. That was a rare 5-star match to Hell in a Cell.
Yeah.
For number one contendership, I forgot that it was number one contendership. It's an interesting thing for the first ever Hell in a Cell. That it's not, and it's. I also thought as well, it's very interesting. The first ever Hell in a Cell, and the first thing you do is debut Kane and rip the door off. Going against it, but it made it even more shocking as well. Everything about that match was just.
That was a number one contenders match that set up the Montreal Screwjob.
Oh wow. That makes sense why Taker was saying he could have gone into the Montreal storyline. Okay.
Parenthetically, because I don't know that we're going to get another chance to bring this up, KD, you just got done mentioning how one of the things that Shawn Michaels has going for him is he's a trailblazer, the first one to be at the forefront of stuff. A match that I was not planning on bringing up for any reason tonight, because it's been done to death, it's been talked about so much, and yada, 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 is the Iron Man match he had with Bret Hart at WrestleMania 12. Okay? I used to think that match was awesome when I was younger. I don't anymore. And it really has nothing to do with Shawn. It just has to do with the match itself.
Okay.
It's the first time, and Katie, you wondered in the pre-show meeting if it was the first time an Iron Man match had ever been contested.
Yes.
The answer is probably not, but it's the first time that it had been brought to that kind of an audience at that kind of a platform.
Yeah.
In my opinion, the last thing you want to do is have a 0-0 scoreless tie after 60 minutes of wrestling to have to go to sudden death. It's one of the reasons I like The Rock's and Triple H's Iron Man match at Judgment Day in 2000 so much, because there was actually pinfalls happening. There were DQs, there were, all submissions and all that kind of stuff. And there was actually action. It was not 0-0.
Brian, when you're done, I have a point that I want to make. So
I'm wrapping it up. I'm not going to drone on about it, but it's a fine match, but I wouldn't put it up to the bar of some of these other matches. There's a lot of matches I would pick of Shawn's before I would even consider the Iron Man match, is my point. And I just didn't know if I would get a better chance to bring that up because some people out there might be saying, well, what about the Iron Man match at WrestleMania? And,
This is what I have to say about the Iron Man match, and this is something that we were discussing in our pre-show meeting, and I said, let's not talk about this for the show because I have a point I want to make. Here's that point. The Iron Man match at WrestleMania 12 was there to serve two purposes. Number one, obviously, put the title on Shawn. Number two, to prove a point that those two could pull that off without there being that much action, to pull off a true wrestling psychology masterpiece. Because with ignoring the in-ring action or lack thereof, from a psychology perspective, that match is Rembrandt.
Would you like to know, considering I don't put complete stock in these, but it's always a fun reference point I find. Would you like to know what the star rating was for that match?
2.5.
1.
Yeah, well,
1 star. So did they pull it off? I don't know. Going by that.
The match itself is boring. It's plotting. It is, but from a psychology perspective, because it's an hour-long match and there are no pinfalls, to be able to pull that off, that match was there to just prove a point.
Yeah.
I mean,
would you reckon, a weird question, do you think that was better, or say, I don't know, for example, one of the matches in AEW that would go to the 60-minute time limit, like say Danielson versus Omega? I assume nowadays, with the amount of extra they put into it, but less psychology, I don't know if that's better or not. I feel like attention's probably easier to stick on nowadays.
Here's what I will say. Let's make that direct comparison. Bret Shawn Iron Man match from 12, Omega Danielson 60-minute time limit draw. One major difference between both of those matches. If you tell me, and even at WrestleMania 12, whoever has the most pinfalls at the end of 60 minutes will win, I'm going to expect to see somebody get pinned or tap out.
True.
With a one ball 60-minute time limit draw, the entire match is false finish after false finish after false finish, and by the time you're gonna wear, in a manner of speaking, you're gonna wear your audience down, and not to the point where you've beaten them down, but to the point where it's all anxious because oh my god, super kick into a chair, 1, 2. It's gonna be every single little move is going to set the audience off to the point where you don't even need to have big spots. By the time you've hit the 40-minute mark, you can now turn this into a freaking war of attrition. And now, a V-trigger is going to elicit a 2 and 99 100ths count. And the audience is going to go absolutely ballistic.
That's a fair point.
Danielson can hit the psycho knee, and there's another false finish. And it's that, even if you don't make that match action-packed, which that match was, even if you don't make that match action-packed, you still elicit that reaction because they're expecting to see a pinfall or submission, not multiple.
Yeah. You're going against what they expect in a good way, whereas the other one, arguably, is the opposite. You're going against what they want, what they expect, but not in a good way.
Because let's be honest, if we're looking at WrestleMania 12, obviously, well, Brian and I were kids. KD might not have even been a thought in his dad's eye.
What year are we on about?
WrestleMania 12 would be
95.
Oh, it's 4. So no, I had no idea this was going on.
All right, cool. Yeah, KD's still crapping himself.
Yeah, I was worried about my poop.
Yeah.
95 or 96.
Yeah. So he's either 4 or 5. KD is still pooping his pants.
96.
He's still pooping his pants as a 6-year-old.
I was still doing it as a 14-year-old. What are you on about?
Oh, there you go. There you go. But if knowing what we know now about wrestling, if we're watching that Iron Man match and we hit the 40-minute mark and there's no pinfalls or submissions, I'm sitting next to Brian going, this son of a bitch is going to go 60-minute 0-0 draw, ain't it?
Yeah.
I can already see it coming.
Mm-hmm.
And that buzzer hits. I look back at Brian and go, we're going to sudden death. Here comes Gorilla Monsoon. There's sudden death. I look at Brian and say one of my favorite phrases to say to anybody. Damn, I'm tired of being right. Because that's literally what we would expect.
You're just getting betting on wrestling over there in America, aren't you? You can now bet on wrestling. Is that right?
Yeah, in certain occasions.
Yeah, we've been able to do that forever, you know.
Say what again?
We've been able to bet on wrestling forever. Some bookies, like on the pay-per-views, they will regularly have little things like who's going to win this for the Rumble, for example. They always have it on. It's not constant, but it's always been there.
See, keep in mind, in America, not all sports betting isn't legal in all 50 states. It's select here and there. It just literally just became legal to gamble on sports in Ohio.
Wow.
This year.
That's interesting because
like February or something.
Yeah, right after. No, it was January 1st.
I'm gonna have to look into the reasoning behind all that because that's quite interesting.
The reason is not actually political. It's actually moral.
Religious.
It's religious. Yeah.
Yeah, that doesn't surprise me.
You get a lot of like ultra conservative states, and then gambling is immoral, therefore illegal.
The religion of wrestling is all I care about. That's my religion. Ding, ding, ding.
There you go, man. Yeah. So.
Hey, KD, is there another match that you wanted to? If we're done talking about, I mean, I can be done talking about the Iron Man. That's fine.
Yeah, let's move on.
So, KD, is there another match you wanted to bring forward since Patrick unwittingly stole your thunder earlier?
And while he's doing that, I got to pee.
Okay. It's highlight because this is the point though when I think of the other matches, and a lot of what comes to my mind is more the questionable stuff, because that is also, you can't ignore that in his career. Like, not just your Montreal Screwjob, because to be fair, until one of you mentioned that, I completely forgot about that. That went out of my mind completely. But that's got to be there. But maybe
no, it doesn't, because and here's all I will say about the Montreal Screwjob, unless somebody else has something they want to put on.
I wasn't going to include it then, but
no, it's been done to death.
Yeah, exactly.
In the annals of our podcast, we have a show where we focus exclusively on the Montreal Screwjob and the politics leading up.
You got to have one there,
and then, but we're talking about the match. The match itself was about 8-9 minutes of schmaz outside the ring, and then they get in the ring, and there's a couple like tentative holds being traded, and all of a sudden, Shawn's got Brett and the sharpshooter and ring that bell and all that. I would steer as far away from this match as I possibly could if I'm going to be showing somebody for the first time, and I want them to become a wrestling fan as a result of it. I'm not going to show them the Montreal Screwjob.
I tell you what, I might do then as as my next answer. To be fair though, I need to lean on you guys for the actual review of the match, because I don't really remember it apart from the little spots that I have seen. But when you think about what it's done nowadays for wrestling and where it's gone to, the first ever ladder match, it's Razor Ramon. That's like a big thing that sticks in my head.
One, but I figured one of the two of you might put that down. But yes, the ladder match with Shawn and Razor is groundbreaking.
It is, and now it's actually I completely forgot about that one.
And I think it's groundbreaking because of the danger involved at that point.
Yeah.
nobody was willing to take those risks back then. You did not have a Jeff Hardy, a Shelton Benjamin, a CM Punk, a Matt Hardy, all these daredevils, an Edge, a Christian that were willing to just take these ladders out and do whatever.
Right.
All you got to do is look at the ladder that they were using and look at how rickety it was.
Yeah.
And look at, how unsure, mostly Razor. I mean, Scott Hall was not sure of himself, as I recall, for some of the match.
Scott Hall was not a small man.
Yeah, exactly.
He
could have only probably gone up a few rungs because I remember it being quite small, the ladder, which makes sense in comparison to how big the ladder's got now,
Yeah.
in modern matches.
But again, I mean, it wasn't the first ladder match that the company had done, but it was the first one that was televised and the first one that was on that platform, because I guess they made mention of like 3 years prior or something. There was another one. I forget who was involved in that, but
Brett and Shawn.
Oh, that's right. Okay.
Oh,
But yeah, that one, for the platform, for the audience, and all that, and the fact that it was the 2 Intercontinental Championships were suspended above the ring.
Oh, yeah. And what that did in general for the Intercontinental title, I think that helped elevate that as well.
Big time.
Yeah. I mean, I don't know a lot of it because obviously I wasn't watching it at the time. I just looked, this is 95, so this is way before my time,
Right.
And gang, if you're listening out there on any of our podcast platforms, by the way, Spotify, iHeartRadio, Google, Amazon, Apple, or you're watching on YouTube.
Not those anchor people. We don't want y'all no more.
Well, you've been folded into the Spotify family of networks, and we appreciate that.
You're lucky.
And you don't know these matches that we're talking about, then you queue up the WWE Network, you queue up Peacock, and you find them. You got a long holiday weekend coming up. It's a great way to spend some time, because any of these matches we're talking about, with a few exceptions, is going to be worth your time. This Razor Ramon match, it's the very definition of the word groundbreaking, because nobody was doing these things with a ladder with those kind of consequences and stakes involved.
I imagine as well, like another match to go along, but it's still the same kind of vibe. I doubt it was probably the first one, but it's the first one that sticks out in my mind. And one of the matches that sticks out in my mind in general, but probably for the wrong reasons, the casket match with Taker. Really early, and I wouldn't be surprised to learn it was the first one.
No, it definitely was not the first. He had a casket match with Yoko beforehand.
Oh, you know what? On this same one as the Intercontinental title ladder match, he's actually in a casket match with Karma.
Yeah, Kamala. Yeah, with Kama. Also Kamala.
Oh. Okay.
He was also in a casket match. With somebody else.
3 stars for the ladder match as well, by the way.
Oh, nice. So here's one. Here's something that we haven't talked about yet. Shawn Michaels had many nicknames, including Mr. WrestleMania. And part of the reason for being Mr. WrestleMania is he stole the show a lot.
Mm-hmm.
And to me, there's one match in his series of WrestleMania matches that steals the show more than any other show-stealing performance, and the look on Brian's face tells me he knows.
I'm interested.
I'm wrong, but I'm afraid you're taking one of mine.
Go ahead and say it then.
WrestleMania 19 with Chris Jericho?
Yep.
Yeah. Oh, okay.
So you know what? Just like I did with KD, Brian, go.
Interesting pick.
It's
interesting pick, my ass. It's a great pick.
I didn't say it was wrong.
2 on my list for a multitude of reasons. The first of which, it's the best example I can think of off the top of my head of a wrestler openly admitting that he idolized another wrestler. And let's tell a story centered around that.
Mm-hmm.
Because if you watch, one of my favorite things to do with matches is watch the build-up beforehand. And when you don't do a build-up beforehand, I feel cheated. Looking at you, Chris Jericho versus Triple H from WrestleMania.
Wow.
We need to see the promo packages first because those are important. They help inform the story for the lapsed fan.
Yeah,
But
true.
this was Jericho growing up in Winnipeg, dressed like Shawn Michaels and had the moveset of a Shawn Michaels, and they got together to work the match. Let's tell that kind of a story. And, Shawn was all for it. And you think, okay, well, it's mutual respect and all this until the very end when, shot to the dick, and the thing of like Shawn like melting down, Jericho's legs at the end of the match and falling to the ground is just beautiful. A beautiful exclamation point at the end of the sentence. But you saw both of them, showing off these movesets, showing off the acrobatics, showing off the high-flying stuff, and showing off the ground-based stuff because you have to be versatile. This showed how versatile both wrestlers were, but especially Shawn Michaels. I can do the ground-based stuff. I can do the aerial stuff. No problem.
And as well, like, you think about that concept just of the whole having the match two good guys and then ending it with one turning with a shot to the dick. Like, it sounds like a winner, but that is something that can easily go wrong as well with the wrong people. You can do exactly the same thing and it can easily go wrong, like AJ Styles and Nakamura.
Yes.
Right.
But obviously this went the other way and it was good,
And I'll give you, and Patrick, I'll let you get your 2 cents in this, but I'll give you a bonus match involving Jericho and Shawn Michaels. Feud of the year in 2008. I love this angle, and it does not get enough run, in my opinion. This was Nick Bockwinkel style Chris Jericho. This was I'm going to be serious now. I'm not shouting anymore. There's no more sparkly suits, or there's no more sparkly getup. There's no more Jeritron. It's just I'm the best in the world at what I do, and I'm not going to shout at you. I'm just going to go out and I'm going to dress in the suits and everything like that. Yeah. And you watch that whole run from coming out of WrestleMania when he was wrestling Batista or something like that. Shawn
beat Flair. He beat Flair at 24.
Right.
Then had the feud with Batista because Batista was pissed that Shawn ended Rick's career. Did the whole feigning an injury to be able to get a one-up on Batista.
Yes.
And then Jericho called him out for being a coward and a liar and a hypocrite.
Because Jericho was the referee during one of those matches or something like that, as I recall. Mm-hmm. And that's when, he ran his face into the obscenely expensive Jeritron 2000.
Mm-hmm.
What else did Jericho do? This one was an accident, but what did he end up doing?
Slapped Rebecca.
He didn't slap her, man. He punched her.
He punched her.
Slap.
That's right. And and to everybody's credit, they just went with it. There was not a lot of bad blood there. They talked about it afterwards and hashed it out, but it led to that unsanctioned whatever where Shawn won, but then Jericho found himself inserted into the championship scramble later in the night at the same pay-per-view or something. Then he left as the champion.
Right.
But it was an unsanctioned match, so you have to ask yourself, did it really happen? Did it really count for anything? And now I'm the WWE champion.
I've got another WrestleMania one, but I feel like that's probably where Patrick's going as well. So.
No, I'm gonna piggyback off of Brian's.
So I'll just end it really quick. The fact that you can take your pick of multiple rivalries and storylines with the same guy is yet another. I mean, Shawn's got a lot of these where he circles back. Let's tell something else, and let's tell something else. He's done it with Triple H. He's done it with Undertaker. He's done it with Jericho. You could make a whole best of list just about that.
So he's missing my guy. I'm saying, go on, Pat.
All right. I'm piggybacking off of multiple things that Brian just said. And here's why. Number one, rivalries that, you can take various parts of the rivalry and everything else. And also unsanctioned matches. Because one of the signature matches of Shawn's might not have been Shawn's best, but from an emotional standpoint, it was the greatest match Shawn Michaels ever had, was that unsanctioned match at SummerSlam against Triple H, when he came back.
Yeah.
He's in the Philippians 4:13 tank top and the blue jeans, and Shawn's getting the dog crap beat out of him, and he hits the forearm, rolls onto his back, and when he tips up, damn it, that place went nuclear.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And the weapons weren't done all the time then, so it meant more.
And I remember exactly what happened, what I did. I remember being at home, sitting on the couch, and when Shawn tipped up, I jumped up and ran around the living room like, we had just won the World Series or something. Like, it was amazing. I mean, wasn't the best match. Shawn had plenty better afterwards and before, but from an emotional roller coaster, nothing Shawn Michaels did before or after. Only one match that Shawn Michaels did after was a better roller coaster of emotions, and that was the retirement match with Flair at 24.
Yeah.
That is a freaking masterpiece as far as emotion is concerned.
Mm-hmm.
But like that unsanctioned match with Triple H was just beautiful, and then you swing that into Elimination Chamber in the Garden when Shawn won the title, and then you have those series of matches with Shawn and Hunter facing each other for the title, and then that culminates at WrestleMania 22, where someone who will not be mentioned beat them both for the title.
Gotcha.
But yeah, dude, that unsanctioned match, man, that is a roller coaster ride that Cedar Point would be proud of.
2002, I had that. I was just wondering, I had that DVD on. I had that on DVD. Sorry, that was one of the first like proper WWE DVDs I owned. That was the one with, if I remember correctly, with Brock and Rock.
Guys,
yeah,
it is. Yeah,
I'm muting my mic for just a second, okay?
Okay. That unsanctioned match, weirdly enough, Wrestling Observer only gave it one star.
Yeah, well, that tells you all you need to know about them sometimes.
There you go. Yeah. I can kind of piggyback off that one though onto the one I was thinking of. I think it was WrestleMania. Shawn versus Vince and Shane in a same kind of style street fight. And I think it was Mania.
A WrestleMania match. Now Shawn wrestled Vince at a WrestleMania. WrestleMania 23, if I'm not mistaken.
Yes, it was 23.
And then that spun off with, Backlash was Vince and Shane versus Shawn and God.
Yeah.
That kind of thing. Because it was Divine Intervention, But it's another example of Shawn's brilliance that he can carry Vince.
Exactly, yeah.
A match.
Real quick. Can anybody tell me whose entrance music became what God came to the ring to?
Somebody call my mama.
Yeah.
Somebody call my mama. Brothers claim and that. Yeah, it was somebody else as well that had it, weren't there?
Ernest the Cat Miller.
Yeah, Ernest the Cat Miller, God, Brodus Clay, and for one night in NXT, Xavier Woods.
Oh, okay.
Can somebody please call my mom?
Shocking that it wasn't Mr. T's music.
Oh, jeez.
From WrestleMania 1.
That was a good one. That's a good one.
See, I'm learning from you guys, so I remember that was WrestleMania 1 now.
Patrick, what else you got as far as? Because I have one more, but I'm going to save it because it's one that nobody's mentioned yet. Thank God.
Okay.
I would probably say, just in terms of like memorable moments that Shawn has been a part of.
So my mind just went as well then.
Yeah, I've got one, and it's not even the match itself. It's the finish. This just, oh my God. The night that Shawn Michaels super kicked Shelton Benjamin into the chaos division.
Yeah.
Oh, that dude, if that ain't a highlight reel, I don't know what is. But
It was on the board intro.
But aside from that, I think, the one match that stands out to me, kind of going back to the first part of Shawn's singles run in WWE before the back injury when he was champion, the match at SummerSlam against Vader.
Yeah, I'm surprised you didn't mention that after I mentioned the Mankind match, because they're in a similar vein.
Yeah, they are. Now, I tabled it. I didn't know if I wanted to mention it or not, but yeah, I mean it sticks out because if you watched, difference here between Brian and I. Brian did not have any exposure to WCW. I got grounded because of freaking. My mother's right there laughing because she, she's the fucking culprit over here.
To be fair, anyone that watched WCW,
I got grounded because Vader powerbombed Sting into freaking oblivion, and I threw a remote and broke it. So, yeah, Brian's heard this story 100 times, Katie. So
Can confirm.
I knew.
The broken remote is actually in the Smithsonian Institution currently. You can see it on the second floor in the West Wing.
Oh, nice.
Wing.
Nice.
Yeah. Nice. I've seen that.
But I knew what Vader was capable of. And I have talked about it on the show that I will argue that Vader is the greatest super heavyweight of them all.
Vader was awesome.
Vader was, my God, it wasn't even fair. That dude is the size of a freaking Volkswagen, and he can move like that? Are you kidding me? But
he could. Wasn't a controversy, like some, like a bit of a mishap in that match? Is that the one where Vader did something wrong and Shawn got angry and like kicked him in the head?
No, Shawn buried him under the ringside mat and then stomped on him.
Oh, now I'm thinking I think he jumped off the top rope and Vader was supposed to do something he didn't, and he kind of landed on his feet and then just kicked him in the head. I think Vader was supposed to move out the way or something.
That might have been, but to me, that was one of those matches where, it was a, paint by numbers Vader match. Vader's got a smaller guy in the ring. Vader beats the ever-loving dog crap out of him. They make a comeback, and, it's now a war. Saw Sting do this 100 times. And as much as I love Sting, seeing Shawn make that comeback had a little bit of extra something on it. So that's why that match stands out, because it's one thing to see an iconic wrestler like Sting against that mastodon, but as much as I have a love affair with the career of Sting, there's Sting and then there's Shawn.
Yeah.
I mean,
bad days.
Sting, as much as I am a mark for him, not on Shawn's level.
Yeah. I've never been a Sting mark anyway, so I can't really say. I'm like Brian, it seems I was just on WWE growing up. Right. Every now and then I'd see a little bit of WCW, but it didn't compare.
Right. I mean, and that's, a product of where we all grew up.
Exactly, yeah.
I mean, that's kind of what that is. So that would probably be like my last entry into this discussion would be the Shawn Vader match from SummerSlam 95, 96, whenever that was.
I've had another one come to mind, but I'll let Brian go first.
Oh, that's awfully magnanimous of you, sir.
I'm a lovely guy.
My last entry into the Shawn Michaels pantheon. WrestleMania 21 versus Kurt Angle.
Son of Bob.
As I recall, and this is another example of what Shawn can do, because as I recall, the build for this one came kind of out of nowhere.
I got another one.
I feel like they were on different shows.
Yes, they were.
This was a cross-promotional type thing. It was Raw versus SmackDown.
Mm-hmm.
And the build happened in literally 2 or 3 weeks. And it's the best example of a build from out of nowhere turning into one of the best matches on the card, if not the best match on the card.
Whoa. Rewind that, because if you're not going to talk about the build, talk about what happened during the build of this, I'm going to drive to your house and I'm going to slap you.
Is this Sexy Kurt?
Damn skippy.
Yes. To come up with that on the fly, I'll make your ankle hurt. using Sherry Martel, no less.
Yes. So freaking amazing. But yes, that match. Hey, we circle back to something we talked about earlier. Shawn stealing the show at WrestleMania. He stole, Kurt Angle is a name on the list of people that Shawn stole Mania with. Him, Jericho, Taker. I mean, the list is, very long. And the funny thing is, I think anybody that followed wrestling when that match was made, you're like, yeah, this. Sometimes you can look at a match and sometimes it's really obvious as to, this match is going to steal the show at WrestleMania. And sometimes you could be on a podcast and say, this match is going to steal WrestleMania. And then the other cats that you're on the show with are going to call you an idiot. And then you're right. I don't know. I don't know if that's ever happened on any podcast. It sure didn't happen on this podcast this year. Definitely didn't. But anyway.
Longest match of the night, that match, 27 minutes. And just the two that could do it, totally. But it seems as though maybe the people backstage had the most faith in that match as well.
Yeah,
you're not going to give.
Let's be honest. If you're backstage and you don't have faith in Shawn Michaels and Kurt Angle, you need your head examined.
You go to a different line of work.
Yeah.
Only a senile old man that's gone through a lot of concussions could possibly have an opinion like that.
Oh no, Jesus God, Vince had faith in that match. But look, Vince has done some dumbass shit in his career as a promoter and a businessman. That ain't one of them.
Yeah.
Another underrated one, and then B, I'll let you close it out, or KD, whoever. Yeah, KD, I'll let you close it out.
I got a good closer.
Because this one actually happened geographically closer to KD than it did us.
Oh.
Brian knows exactly where I'm going. It was that 1 hour Broadway on Monday Night Raw that Shawn had with John Cena.
Oh, yeah.
Keep in mind, this was right after WrestleMania 23.
Yeah.
When Shawn and Cena wrestled for the title and Cena retained. And then they had a non-title over in London that went an hour, and it's just such a great match. And the finish, the AA, Shawn lands on his feet, hits the super kick, and just falls back on him. Like, that match is, one, from a Shawn perspective, it's as good as it gets. And two, it proved how great Shawn was, because Cena did not know squat for ring psychology at that point.
Yeah.
That match taught John Cena how to be John Cena.
That's one that I have not watched all the way through in quite a while. I think I'm going to have to try and find that one over the weekend. And
Yeah, I think I am too. Because we're talking about you mentioned the Kurt Angle match, and I was like, yeah, Shawn had some great matches in WrestleMania leading up toward WrestleMania 25, and then it hit me. I'm like, oh crap, Cena. He actually made Cena look like a god.
Cena is a god. What are you on about?
Hey, I want to point one thing out. Triple H didn't make Cena look that good.
no, he didn't.
Triple H was always growing up. I was always a big. Me and my brother were big DX fans.
Right.
But I was Shawn Michaels, and he always loved Triple H. He was aware of Triple H being like, you know, the mind of wrestling before anyone else was.
Right.
But I like Shawn Michaels better. But
So,
yeah.
Katie,
As
you
a performer.
had a match. Close it out for us.
Okay, so this one, I think it's a classic. This one is. I'm shocked that I didn't think about it, to be honest, earlier. Probably one of the best in-ring matches. I don't know about story. I don't remember the story too well. But in-ring, this was probably the best Shawn Michaels match I've seen. SummerSlam 2005 against Hulk Hogan. Ring psychology in that is amazing. The willingness to put his opponent over as well. Selflessness in that, it was amazing. I mean, I'm shocked, to be honest. I'm looking, and he only got 1 star. I don't understand how. I think Mr. Meltzer needs to think about his star system again.
We go on here. We go on here for 45 minutes, and we have a nuanced and layered discussion about the career genius of Shawn Michaels and how there's all these great matches.
Yeah, and somehow
choose from, and then you have to go and you have to lay a turd right on my keyboard.
I know. I'm shocked it took us 45 minutes or whatever to get there. I don't know how we didn't think about that awesome match.
Katie, let's be honest here, you son of a bitch. You had this plan from the word go, and I love you for it, man.
I don't know what you guys are on about. I think it's
okay.
That doesn't work for me, brother.
Oh, it totally works for me, brother, because, you know, as much as I have not liked Hulk Hogan, and, you know, on our pre-show meeting earlier tonight, boys and girls, we referenced the show that we did in the pre-KD era, where the last GOAT discussion we did, actually, when we chronicled Hulk Hogan and all those screwy ass finishes. And if you guys were around, you remember me losing my ever-loving shit watching that during that show. And, you know, the fact that we mentioned that, and, you know, Shawn completely showing his ass and overselling the way he did in that comical fashion with Hogan. My God, that couldn't have happened to a nicer guy.
Yeah. That was probably one of the first matches where I really looked at it and understood, oh, you know what? There's something else going on here. I don't know what, but there's something going on in the background.
I knew exactly what it was. And what was going on right there was a big, gigantic middle finger.
Yeah. Was it the main event? Because looking at the listings as well, yeah. I think it's better.
But you know,
my favorite image from that match, and that's all I'm going to say about it. And then we're going to move on, because the less we say about that match, the better.
Yeah, you to be fair, you can't give it the justice it deserves of how good it was. You can't put it into words. So I understand.
And I'll say one more thing about Shawn, but before we put a bow on this one this week. My favorite image from this match: Hogan comes out and he's standing in the entranceway, and they unfurl that gigantic American flag, and they cut back to Shawn in the ring, and he's going like this.
Yeah.
You know, and I don't know if it means, okay, we're gonna bury you, or I'm just gonna shovel all your crap, whichever one. But one of my favorite promos of all time happened in the run-up to this match. Patrick knows exactly what I'm going to reference here. And it's one of we have one of my favorite episodes that we've ever done of Wrestling with Egos from a couple of years ago, where I believe it's Patrick and RJ trying to guess the top 10 promos of all time as listed by WrestleTalk.
Wow.
And one of the ones they could not get was number 5 on that list. Who's Your Daddy Montreal? If you've never seen the Who's Your Daddy Montreal promo.
Yeah.
Shawn Michaels. Not a lot of people talk about Shawn's promo work. When Shawn wanted to cut to the bone, he could do it in spades. And I'm not even talking about anything he did in DX. I'm talking about mid-90s, I don't give a crap, Shawn. Could cut to the bone better than anybody. And in this instance, you know,
the psychology
had you going for just a little bit there, didn't I? You know, it's just magical. And then
it's
the
one of those
match.
few moments when, like, you remember even what he was wearing, because he never wore a suit, but he was wearing a suit at that point. Which made it even. There's a few things you remember from Shawn Michaels as what he was wearing. Like, he's one of the only people matches. Shawn Michaels is the only example of where there was a match with a special referee. Where I remember the special referee, but not the actual match. I just remember him in his hot pants.
And is that all the referees are going to want pyro?
Yeah, but dude, I'm KD. Unlike Brian, I will thank you for bringing up that match, because that match is a guilty pleasure match for me, because I love Shawn metaphorically dropping trowel and taking a crap on the career that is Hulk Hogan.
It was great.
To quote the great champion and the legendary true nature boy of this business, Buddy Rogers, to a nicer guy, it couldn't happen.
I respect you, Booker Man.
That's that.
I know it's not the same.
Wow.
Not the same guy, but
I know.
Guy, but wow, that's a deep cut right there, man. And on that, we're gonna get out of here. Cue the music.
Before we get in any more trouble.
Say what?
Before we get in any more trouble.
Oh, please. We're fine.
If you think this is trouble, you want to come over to. If you think this is trouble, you want to come over to KD Comedy and see some of the conversations I get into on there. My
He's
God,
not wrong, boys and girls.
No,
Jiminy.
He's, or to quote the not so great promo cutter Bobby Fish, where's the lie? But yeah, head on over to KD Comedy Inc. over on the YouTubes, and laugh your ass off, because you will. And if you don't, you probably don't have a heart, and you also don't like puppies or ice cream.
It's true. It's true. I've met a few people like that.
They're
not a fan of ice cream.
And to quote a movie, you will receive no points, and may God have mercy on your soul.
There you go. Couldn't have said it better myself.
So head on over to KD Comedy Inc. over on the YouTubes and check out our boy and all of his.
Just KD Comedy. Sorry, now I had to drop the ink because we don't like tattoos here.
All right, so head over to KD Comedy on the YouTubes and watch our boy and all of his shenaniganery.
Good way to put it.
Yeah, well, I have to get that one in. Make Brian eye roll every once in a while. Brian, I have to tell you something after we're off the air. I forgot to tell you. You're gonna
shenanigans.
You're about to hate me. Right now, I'm actually putting it on the screen. That way, people know what I'm about to tell you. But it's not wrestling, but it's a pastime of ours. You're about to be very jealous.
Circle jerk.
We're gonna get into the show right there. So, for the apoplectic smartest guy in the room, Brian, and for the smartest guy, the funniest guy in the room, KD. The bastion of the United Kingdom, the saving grace of the United Kingdom, Mr.
The real
KD
king that God needs
on
to
what
save.
grounds?
He makes us laugh.
I don't make the rules. KD
makes us stupid Americans laugh, And, for that, we thank you. We thank you for not only being a national treasure in your own country, but also in ours as well.
And I thank you, stupid Americans, for existing.
And you're welcome.
Thank you.
So for KD and the rest of us stupid Americans, this has been yet another episode of Wrestling with Egos. We will see you guys next week, because laughing our asses off like this, yeah, it's totally why we love wrestling.
Wabba-doodle.